Hi everybody, and welcome to another B.PAC live session. My name is Sumedha, and I work with the B.PAC, Bangalore Political Action Committee, for those of you who are new. Welcome to another B.PAC live session. Really excited to have our guest today, whom I'm just gonna let in. Hi!
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me, Sumedha and B.PAC team.
Of course. Hi, how are you? And it's so good to have you. We're really, really excited. For those of you, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Sahar, but for those of you who don't know, she is Sahar Mansoor is the founder and CEO of Bare Necessities, which is a very cool Bangalore-based company. They specialize in providing zero waste solutions to businesses. And for some of you who are my friends on this, you know that I'm a huge fan of the whole zero waste movement. So this is a very exciting session for me. Um, so Sahar is super accomplished. She has a background in environmental policy, and she worked at the WHO in Geneva, and then she worked in decentralized renewable energy with Selco here. And now she has this amazing company that's doing so much cool work in India and in Bangalore too. So we're so excited to have you, Sahar. I know your bio is really long. I was just looking it up, and you have been recognized by Vogue India and Harper's Bazaar and Elle Magazine and Google and everybody. So, for the sake of keeping time, I encourage people who are unfamiliar with Sahar to look her up later. But I'm excited to get right into the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Sumedha, for that super generous introduction. But thank you so much, B.PAC and Sumedha and everyone who's worked on the Sustainability Manifesto. I'm so excited to get right into it. Sumedha, do you want to just start off by telling everyone what the Sustainability Manifesto is?
Sure, yeah. So, for people who are unfamiliar with B.PAC on this call, we are the Bangalore Political Action Committee, and we're a nonpartisan nonprofit based in Bangalore, and our goal is to generally improve governance and quality of life in Bangalore. And I lead the environmental sustainability program called Be Green. And we recently launched a very exciting initiative. It's called the Bengaluru Sustainability Manifesto, and basically just to set a very brief premise for how this came about. Everyone's got COVID on their minds now, and rightly so, and we're also in the midst of an economic crisis, but we can't forget that we're also in the middle of a huge environmental emergency. And climate scientists have told us that we have less than 10 years to address this. And and beyond 10 years, so basically continuing business as usual is just not going to cut it anymore. And if we don't do anything drastic, then basically all the doomsday predictions that we hear about how climate change is going to end up affecting the world, the reality is probably, you can assume that it's worse than anything that we can, if you see the wildfires now in California, flooding and hurricanes that are increasingly frequent, this crisis is on a global scale as well as at the Bangalore level. It's just taken a huge toll. And we really feel that, cities are the centers of the highest population, highest economic activity. So in a lot of ways, cities are kind of the centers of causing a lot of the emissions and environmental issues. But it's also an excellent opportunity because cities are also places where you have, amazing culture and innovation and all these citizens living close together. There's so much opportunity for collaboration. So we've seen that when cities really launch a city level plan and kind of take ownership of their future, that's when you see really inspiring and scalable success. So what this manifesto document is that we've just put together a vision document that's very ambitious, that says that we do want to see a much greener Bangalore by 2030. We believe it's possible, and here are some very high level goals that we would like to see from the city. For example, we want us to launch a very comprehensive sustainability and climate action plan for the city. And that includes everything from, the way we do our city planning and land use planning to energy, infrastructure, water, and of course, production, consumption, the economy itself, and how everything can, because this is the kind of scale of change that we really need to see in this decade. And one of the reasons that we're doing this live is because we also want to show that, there is so much hope because there's already so much good stuff that's going on in the city. And, there's people that are leading the way. And we'd love to showcase some of those solutions and talk more about, be encouraged to see how we can do more of this good work and scale it up too. So yeah, that's a little bit of brief about the manifesto. And for those of you who are more interested, you can go to @B.PAC official, which is our handle on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll find links to it in our bios. And you can also go to bpac.in/Bengaluru-sustainability-manifesto, and that'll give you more information about that initiative. But that's just a quick intro, and thank you so much, Sahar, for endorsing this through Bare Necessities. And we're so excited to have your support, because it's something that's really going to help us with advocacy too, to show that, you know, industry and business and citizens, everybody believes that this is a priority. So we're so excited for that. So I'd love to hear from you too, like what made you decide to endorse it, and what was it that resonated most with you about it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, like you said, you know, during the pandemic, we're all kind of trying to introspect about our life and how we kind of want to reimagine a cleaner, more just, more sustainable world. And I loved how ambitious the Sustainability Manifesto was. I loved the plan for 2030. I loved how interdisciplinary it was. It talked about collaboration at every possible level, from a city level to kind of getting industry experts to us, you and I, real citizens, kind of to be part of the solution. And I loved that invitation to kind of be part of something. So, you know, I also really like that there is an emphasis on social equity and economic equity. I love that is, you know, governance at a multiple level. We're talking about a city level department for sustainability. I think they're all very tangible kind of goals and visions that are ambitious, that are bold, and everything that we need to basically reimagine a cleaner, more just world that is ready for climate action at a multiple level. So I'm so excited personally to endorse the manifesto, but also from an organizational level who is also trying to create change in the sustainability realm to endorse the Sustainability Manifesto.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, you know, one of the things in the manifesto is that we also talk about the importance of just having alignment with that your city goals must align with what we've already committed to at a national and international level. So, for example, if you look at India's climate agreements, we've, you know, committed to reducing our GDP emissions intensity by a huge percentage. And all our policies look amazing on paper at the international level, but then there's a real gap in it actually translating at the city level, right? And when you try to, you know, look at what does this really come down to ultimately from an individual's perspective, from a citizen's perspective, like such a huge part of it is just consumption. And this is something that nobody wants to talk about, because consumption means, like, when people think about consumption, they're like, that means the economy, that means GDP. We don't want to mess with that. We don't want to ask people to stop buying things or anything. That's just like too scary. But then I think this whole conversation is so important, because it's not, of course, consuming less is important, but then also consuming more responsibly is something that's just equally, I mean, it's even more important. And that's something that you have offered a solution to so many people, is just, you know, product alternatives, that because consumers do want to be responsible, but we don't always have those options. So tell us more about, yeah, how did you decide to get into this business, and how does your business do things differently than a conventional business?
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, it's just that, like you summarized it beautifully. I think there was a lack of accessible alternatives. You know, when I moved back to Bangalore in 2015. You know, I grew up here, spent my weekends in Cubbon Park. And after kind of spending about 8 years away, I thought that we needed to reclaim some of our public spaces. I thought, you know, we had kind of lost a lot of our green spaces. So I think also just kind of going back to the citizens and kind of how we can basically be part of the solution. I think the lifestyle and our consumer choices are a very easy and very tangible way. You can visualize, you know, your waste. You can visualize that bamboo toothbrush. You can visualize the amount of waste you're diverting from the oceans and landfill. And it's very hard for me to find all the right products. You know, I felt like I was trying to whip something up in my mom's kitchen, but I was also trying to get something from somewhere else. And it was like you had to go to 3 different places to try and source everything in a low waste manner. Yeah. And I just wanted to make it easy and accessible for anyone else who's looking to consume mindfully. And I said, you know what, Bangalore is like this tech city. We have all of the knowledge, skill, technology that we need to make this accessible to everyone at the tips of their fingertips, you know, so just by a couple of clicks. And that's why we created an enterprise that we wanted to mirror all its values of sustainability, ethical consumption, but also just like mindful manufacturing and kind of thinking about sourcing your raw materials from start to finish. thinking about the people that we want to employ in the manufacturing team, and kind of the values that we want to inculcate into them. So everyone on our manufacturing team are local women. Some of them have finished school, some of them haven't had any form of education. We thought it was important to include healthcare access to everyone on the team. So we're just kind of trying to think about all the values that we like and care about the world, and we try to kind of embed it into an enterprise. And essentially, through our talks and workshops that are pretty hands-on in nature in a pre-COVID world, it was trying to give people very tangible solutions of how you can be part of the solution. So how you can make bioenzymes, how you can compost, how you can make toothpaste. Also kind of demystifying or decoding that ethical consumption is expensive and inaccessible and impossible to basically implement. So trying to kind of also build the case for accessibility socially, but also economically.
Yeah, and I love that you guys have that whole social component too, because a lot of people, especially I think, the general knowledge among people that aren't in the environmental field, they still look at environment different from society and economy and all these other things. But it's just so great that you're able to, look at all of those aspects and really build the business on those foundations. And just a note on the whole consumption thing for people watching who, may not be too familiar with this subject. Like, I encourage you to just, look up something like, I'm assuming everyone here has a laptop, maybe in addition to a phone. And if you just look up like a laptop supply chain or just any personal care product supply chain map on Google, and you'll see that basically the thing that you're holding in your hand right now, basically the parts of it come from pretty much every continent on the planet. Like, the amount of emissions that are included in one tiny product is just so much, which is why it's so cool to have like a local company that really takes the whole supply chain concept seriously and, offers the solutions. So that's really great. Yeah. And so you were talking about accessibility, and that's a very important aspect. And right now in India, people, they often say that it's the people that are lower economic status are the most sustainable, and it's because, and that's not something to be proud of. We always end up in a weird, like, convoluted way taking credit for the amount of poverty we have in India. But it's that, of course, they are more sustainable because they have to be out of compulsion. But at the same time, they do also end up using a lot of these more affordable products that are not so good for the environment, like those little sachets of, detergent and things like that. So I know that it is probably quite challenging to kind of match the price and things like that. So what's your experience with, when you started off, especially, like, what was your experience with managing the cost and, trying to do away with the whole perception that sustainability is more expensive, and, that's something that people use as a deterrent not to get into the field. So how did you manage that whole aspect of cost?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Smita, I spent a lot of time in rural Karnataka for all of my field work at Selco Foundation. We worked with agrarian farmers who are, feeding our entire country, you and I included, and so grateful for their work. But what I realized also was the little sachets of detergent or shampoo or whatever was seen as, was very aspirational. It was kind of a social it was almost like you're climbing up the social ladder by virtue of that consumption. Mm-hmm. And it was so disheartening to see, these little 2 rupee sachets that are just kind of going into the ground, in which the food, and then, ultimately contaminating the food and water that they are food on and feeding our entire country. So I think fundamentally it needs a change on so many levels, basically. It's so important to kind of have congruent economic, environmental goals when you have an enterprise like that is trying to reimagine a more, cleaner. So, what we try and do is have in our talks and workshops also incorporate, like, what are the cheap alternatives. Sure, you might not be able to afford a bamboo toothbrush, but maybe you can get a miswak stick or a neem stick. This might be 180, whatever, but this might be 20 or 30 available outside any mosque, for example, a miswak stick, right? We surely try and break it down into little, small, actionable steps of what you can do. If you go to buy a composting unit, sure, you might have an old plastic bucket in your house that you want to do a little DIY project in. So, the idea is to Also, we're really transparent on all our ingredients. So on our workshops, we teach people how to make all of the products. We don't have to be the most profitable enterprise out there. Or, if there is more people making zero-waste products out of their own kitchen, and if there's ultimately less waste going in the oceans and landfills, that is our mission solved. And we have attracted so much amazing talent over the past few years with amazing engineering schools, amazing startups. We are so willing to try new things, and that's why I think enterprises like us are booming and surviving and thriving. But I think also our infrastructure systems need to also kind of evolve with us, and I think also to an extent, we need to be part of reimagining that clean solution. And I think that's what we're trying. What B.PAC is trying to do, what Bare Necessities is trying to do, is just make it easy for everyone who wants to be part of the solution, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important that you brought up the fact that, there is like an aspirational aspect to why we produce so much waste, is because when rich people consume so much, it kind of becomes that they are kind of influencers in society, right? People aspire to that kind of lifestyle. And if the wealthy can start becoming much more responsible consumers, then that could actually have a huge impact in terms of how everyone else decides to spend. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah. So speaking of that, I mean, our whole manifesto is really about, looking at this at a city level and what cities can do, because one of the things that the manifesto says is that, just like we are an IT capital, we also want to be a sustainability capital, and we want to attract investment in business, but we don't want to attract those kinds of businesses that just come here because, labor is cheap and environmental regulations are low. We want to actually attract more sustainable businesses. And everyone talks about ease of doing business here, but we want to really talk about ease of doing green and responsible business. So as a business owner yourself, what would you say can be done at a city level or just at a policy level that can really help a business like yours and also attract more such businesses?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a phenomenal question. I think it's kind of like a pie, right? And it's an ecosystem approach. You need all of the actors and players to kind of do their bit. So I think policies need to exist that basically incentivize businesses to exist, right? So whether that means a lower taxation slab, maybe a tax rebate, we find that economic incentives in the policy realm work wonderfully for implementation. Even little things like putting on your seatbelt. It was a policy that started with a fine in place across countries, and that was kind of the trigger, and that's what really helped implementation. It is those finding the right financials that work for citizens, enterprises to basically survive and kind of encourage innovation, right? And basically make these accessible alternatives more accessibly priced for everyone.
Absolutely.
Thinking about
like including the true cost of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe more sustainable products are more expensive if the government could create policy incentives for us to exist. Maybe that could help reduce the cost and ultimately make it more accessible and affordable for more Indians and more Bangaloreans, right? So I think that is important. I think we as citizens, as consumers, need to demand better products. We need to ask manufacturers the right questions, and we need to demand for transparency. We need to demand for better quality products. We need to ask how much people got paid, what's in our clothes, all of these things, which we're already obviously starting to do, especially in the social media era. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it got a little spotty for a little. I missed some of the few things you said a minute ago.
No, I was just saying, us consumers need to be part of the solution. We need to ask manufacturers for just questions about who made our clothes, but also what's in it. So kind of demand a higher standard to all of the kind of companies out there. So I think us as consumers need to ask the right questions. Right policies need to exist, right manufacturers need to be creating all of the alternatives. I think also we need the institutions and whether that's startups or universities to kind of foster this spirit of innovation. And we need to reimagine better solutions. We can't do business as usual, right? And we also can't become merely waste managers like the West either. We're at this crossroads and we need to reimagine how we want to do things. We've seen the bazaars, we've seen the Western inspired groceries that are accessibly packaged, and now it's up to us to adopt a solution that suits us from an Indian or Asian perspective. So I think that's also really important. So we need institutions, those incubation hubs, universities, everything to kind of really encourage this innovative thinking that is super but solution oriented. So I think that all the things that we need to.
Yeah. So, I think we are kind of nearing the end of this, and I'd love to, have you send a message out to anybody who's watching, who might be like a beginner in this field or a young aspiring entrepreneur, somebody, how can they make a difference in this area?
Well, if you are, social impact entrepreneur leaning or thinking about it, I think my only one advice to you is to just do it, because we need lots of us. We need lots of amazing, impact and environmental kind of geared people to be part of the solution. So can't wait to see your solution and can't wait to implement with you. Can't wait to collaborate with you. I think we need to partner up. We often hear of companies getting acquired and merged, but I don't think we hear of enough awesome collaboration in this space. So I think I hope we can do more of that. So yeah, that's my advice. Just do it.
Awesome. So tell people where they can find you. I also know that you guys just released a zero waste lifestyle course, I think, an e-course. So just give people resources that they can look you up and find more information on your work.
Well, you can press Bare Necessities and find our Instagram, but also our website is barenecessities.in. We have everything from personal care, home care, lifestyle, everything you need to transition to a low impact lifestyle. We have a bunch of workshops. If you want to make it yourself, join us, be part of the conversation, share your tips, your tricks. And of course, we have the online course that is self-paced. So it basically has everyone who I really love and admire and have inspired me in my environmental journey.
Excellent. That's so great. So everyone, please check that out. And also, if you're interested in learning more about B.PAC, our website is ic.in. You can also go to our Instagram handle at B.PAC Official. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And it would be great if you could also check out our Bengaluru Sustainability Manifesto, especially all you Bangaloreans out there. And tomorrow we will actually be launching a petition. So that's a great way for citizens also to endorse this as individuals if you think that this is something Bangalore needs. And yeah, and there's multiple ways for us to, we have a survey actually that we're almost closing. So if you want to have a way to give us feedback, that's a great way to do it. But generally stay in touch with both of our, our organizations, and we'd love the opportunity to involve all of you in whatever we do in the future. So thank you everyone. And thank you so much, Sahar. This was really great talking to you.
Thank you, Sumedha. Thank you, B.PAC. And for everyone watching, please do check out the Sustainability Manifesto that reimagines a cleaner, more bold Bangalore, and endorse it yourselves at an organizational level and at a personal level.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sahar. Bye.
Bye.